obviously, I mean, it sounds like you are very well established, and that probably didn't happen overnight. So, is there any way we could get a little bit of background about some of the experiences or development that you went through in order to get you to where you are today?
Yeah, for sure. This is my first sports job. I have never had a job in sports, and I've been working for like almost, gosh, like I would say like I've been working for like 13 years or so. So if it is possible, and I'm proof of it, but I went to school in upstate New York. I went to Cornell. And like Andrew, just real quick question: are folks here undergrad, grad?
I think we've got a nice mix of between
Okay, cool.
undergrad and grad students. Probably pretty close to 50-50, I'd say.
Awesome. Just curious. So
Yeah.
I was in school. I thought I wanted to go to law school. Well, turns out I didn't want to go to school for 3 more years. I was done. So I, went into consulting, spent some time in consulting, was at American Express, got laid off 6 months into my job through a reorganization. And then I made a kind of a career change because I had quite a bit of time before my end date to think about, what is my next step? What do I want to do? And I really took that time. I was going to travel around the world, which, I'm not saying I regret not doing that, but, I took that time and thought about, now if I have the opportunity to reinvent myself, reinvent my career, what would I want to do? And so I went through, I could talk about it if important, but through some happenstance and some work and luck, I went into product management. And so what that product management is, if you guys aren't familiar with it, is really in that kind of high-tech Silicon Valley world where you're the ones designing new experiences. So like anything from apps, right, to web, software, et cetera. So I, did that for a good amount at a couple of different startups. Most recently, I was at Dropbox, where I led Dropbox's expansion. So how do we get our paying customers to pay more? And then also our acquisition, how do we get net new customers, specifically in, emerging markets that don't have Dropbox, as new customers. And we did that by really understanding, what is it that people want, right? And then building a really great experience around it. I was at that job for 9 months and I just moved to San Francisco. And then I think like, well, I guess you guys don't work yet. And I'm sure maybe some of you do, but you have this moment where you're like, oh, I don't know if like this is the job for me. So I went online, literally, and I don't know how common this is because most people I know at the Hawks kind of got their role through networking or through someone they know. But I just saw this like director of innovation, Atlanta Hawks. And I was like, I don't know what that is. Definitely never had that role before. I'm going to go for it. So I sent my resume in and I really thought it was going to go into the black box of resumes that you think just like, I have no idea where they go. And I never thought they really even got looked at. I got a call. And even then, throughout the whole process, I was like, they're never going to hire me because I've never done this role and it's new for them. And, but then a month later, I'm moving to Atlanta where, I barely know anyone. I can talk a little bit more about why and things like that. But that's really how I landed at the Atlanta Hawks. For some context, I'm from Chicago and I grew up in that 90s Bulls era, right? So I've been a basketball fan since I can breathe basically. So for me, I was like, you know what? I had my like really nice cushy Silicon Valley job where like they like fed us like Wagyu steak and, waited on us hand and foot. And I worked at, McKinsey, big consulting. And I was like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, man. I don't know when I can go work for an NBA franchise as a director doing innovation, right? Which is basically, and I can talk more about what that is, but basically the license to like fail and try things in a playground. Sign me up. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I landed at the Hawks. It's definitely not a typical journey, I would say, but I think that goes to show nowadays, you know, I think clubs are looking for good people, not necessarily time spent, in sports.